You are listening to ProveText, a Glossa House podcast exploring Scripture with Dr. T. Michael W. Halcomb and Dr. Frederick J. Long. Welcome and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to ProveText. I am Michael Halcomb, and in this episode, I'm thinking about three things. I want to share those three things with you. They are, once again, 3 sites in Italy that may be of interest to those of you who are interested in the New Testament. So let's get to it. The first one that I want to share with you is called San Paolo alla Regola. I don't know if I just butchered the Italian or not, but it's basically something like St. Paul to the rule or something along those lines. But in Italy, there's a modern church. I think it was built in like the 16th century or something. That's still standing. And just beneath that church, right, because they built it on some. There's basically like an underground area, an underground house, and this is where it is believed that at least for some time Paul may have indeed been on house arrest. And so, if you're watching ProveText right now, you can see the image I've posted on the screen, and this is just one shot. The area is actually quite big, and it's a pretty neat area. You can walk through there. There are these kind of tunnels and things. And so this was a common practice, right? Whenever we often know that these sites were related to early Christians and early Christianity because wherever there was a house church or something like that, they would build another house church on top of it, or a basilica on top of it, or a cathedral on top of it, and it just keeps going, right? Yeah, so you have these layers and layers of history. And unfortunately, some of those layers of history are kind of lost because they were destroyed and built upon. But in this one, we still have what's today below ground. And it's actually currently, as I'm doing this episode, being renovated. So if you're in Rome, there are only certain times of year right now in 2023 that this is open. So again, San Paolo alla Regola. And this is where you can see perhaps early Christian houses and where Paul may have lived and Paul may have been on house arrest. There's probably a pretty high likelihood that this is indeed that location or a location of that. Another place, this is at the Church of St. Paul outside the walls where Paul's tomb is. When you go to that cathedral today, you'll find that there's actually like an abbey there. Monks live there, and they brew beer and make cheese and all kinds of little trinkets and things like that. But one of the other things that you'll find here is that it's below it, again, because it's always built on top of, is an archaeological site. And so these are remains of earlier Christians' houses and proof of early Christian community. And so once again, we have a sacred site built on a sacred site built on a sacred site. And this is actually one of the things, these archaeological finds that have led archaeologists to the conclusion, or at least partially to the conclusion, that this is indeed where Paul was buried. This Christian community grew up around this. And then again, the site just stayed in the Christian tradition. So you can see why other people or religions or people who are antagonists to Christianity throughout history may have wanted to get rid of Christian sites. But yeah, this is another place that I highly recommend visiting. And if you're going to visit the tomb of St. Paul, it's right there on the same grounds. And just a 5-minute drive away is the place where Paul was beheaded. So this is the Church of St. Paul outside the walls. And then the last thing that I want to show you, right inside Rome, is a place where it's believed that John the Baptizer, they have part of his skull. So it's the head of St. John the Baptist at San Silvestro in Capite, or San Silvestro in Capite, however you want to say that. Now, this is interesting. If you're watching, you can see a portion of a skull here, but there are a bunch of traditions. I mean, maybe a dozen or a little less than that of churches around the world saying they have part of St. John's skull, and obviously they all can't be it. One of them can be it, but this is one in Rome where they're claiming this is in fact the case, and this is not far from Trevi Fountain and other things if you're in the area and you want to see it. So, yeah, I would commend these three locations to you if you're going to Italy to visit the Church of St. Paul outside the wall. You can see that early Christian community, the artifacts of that. The head of John the Baptizer is the supposed head of John the Baptizer. A lot of legend going on around that. And then also the place where Paul would have lived underneath the Church of St. Paul alla Regola, San Paolo alla Regola. And you can see some certainly early Roman artifacts while you're there visiting that. So 3 sites related to the New Testament, and I hope that helps.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? Glossa House can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, Glossa House offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glossahouse.com today. Glossa House, language resources for the global community.